Welcome to the Produce Moms Podcast, where we believe there is a produce mom in all of us. I'm Lori Taylor, founder and CEO of the Produce Moms. For 10 years, I sold fresh produce to over 300 grocery stores in the U.S. And today, my team and I are fully focused on inspiring people to eat more fruits and vegetables. This show is just one of the ways that we hope to inspire you and your family to eat more produce and live a better life. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, join our community of almost 40,000 in all 50 states and over 30 countries by visiting theproducemoms.com/subscribe. And be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes. Thanks for being here. Enjoy today's show. Welcome back, everyone. This is the Produce Moms Podcast, and we are celebrating National Mango Day. We have someone who is just, she is a superstar. Our guest today is Eve Sapp. She is a representative from the National Mango Board. She's one of their board members, one of their millennial board members. She's a young female, fourth generation Florida agriculture, and it's just going to blow your mind because she is a domestic grower of mangoes. That's right, growing mangoes right here in the United States. In the state of Florida, and she is our guest today. We are so happy to welcome Eve and to celebrate National Mango Day. Eve, welcome to the Produce Moms Podcast.
Thanks, Lori. I am so excited to be here. You really have a fantastic show.
Oh, thank you. It's certainly my pleasure to have you on. And I'll tell you what, mangoes are one of my favorite fruits, and I look forward to, sharing some reasons why. It's far beyond their delicious flavor and all their nutrition. But let's start the show with a little bit more about you so that our guests can get to know you. I've really enjoyed our pre-show conversations and all of my preparations for today's episode. And, Eve, you have an incredible story. And so please share with our listeners today a little bit more about your background and, just how what you did to get to where you are at today.
So I grew up a farmer's daughter. My family has been in Florida for a long time, which is kind of unique because, a lot of people can say they live in Florida, but not many people can say they are a fourth generation Floridian, and not just fourth generation Floridian, but fourth generation in Florida agriculture. So growing up, it's great. Growing up, my father was actually in the citrus industry, and we had hundreds of acres of citrus groves in Florida. We did get out of citrus in the 90s, the late 90s. And I really missed that part of my childhood, being, in the citrus groves. So life went on, and about 10 years ago, I was working as a cook for a luxury hotel company, the luxury hotel company. Mm-hmm. And my mom gave me a call, and she said, "Well, do you remember that mango grove that your father has? We had been renting it out, leasing it out to other people, and they really didn't do a very good job in keeping up with it. There were a lot of reasons why we weren't able to take care of it." And she said, "Well, your father has decided that he wants to get back into farming." And so we began rehabilitating this mango farm. And it was an adventure. We started out that first summer about 10 years ago with a little umbrella next to the road selling mangoes. I have to admit, we really didn't know much about mangoes back then. And I am horrified to admit at this point that I didn't like mangoes back then.
Oh, no.
I know, it's awful. I didn't know much about mangoes. And I feel like I can really relate to people when they tell me that they don't know much about mangoes, because that's where I came from 10 years ago.
Sure. Hey, and such a testament, folks. Try them again, right? Because now it goes without saying you love them.
Yes, I do. I cannot get enough of them. And so we grew over the last 10 years. We went from just a little folding table by the roadside to now we have our own sort of agri-tourist destination down in Southwest Florida. And we've really learned a lot over the years. And I feel like I'm almost a mango ambassador we've built a sort of social media following. We have a website. And along the way, I have learned so much. And I feel like really I have benefited from this adventure in mango farming.
Right. And your family's farm is a 40-acre grove. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. And you told me in the pre-show conversations, that's about 1,000 trees.
It is. And we usually average about 500 to 550 pounds of fruit per tree.
Wow.
So we've got some big, old, beautiful mango trees. And what a lot of people don't know is that mangoes have been grown in Florida for decades now. Our farm, the first trees planted on our property were planted in the 1950s.
I see. And that just blows my mind as someone who has worked pretty much my entire professional career in the fresh produce supply chain and now in media and education for fresh produce. I did not know until, conversations with the, Valda at the Mango Board and now meeting you. And, I did not know that mangoes were even grown in the United States. Shame on me. But I know that if I didn't know it, a lot of our listeners didn't know it either. So you're one of 2 domestic growers on the board for the National Mango Board, correct?
Yes. The other grower is a family or a man from Hawaii.
Okay, great. So tell our listeners, I've always associated mangoes with your Latin American countries and, growing regions. Tell our listeners a little bit more about where mangoes grow.
So in addition to a lot of international destinations, especially Latin America, in the United States, we have mangoes that are grown in Florida, California, Hawaii, and then we also have them grown in territories like the U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico. We have a lot of commercial production in Puerto Rico, places like Guam. And you'll find mangoes all over South Florida. There are some great places if you're ever on vacation in Florida or California. The Fairchild Gardens down in South Florida has a plethora of educational opportunities. You can find mangoes for sale in farmers markets in Fort Lauderdale, in California, in Santa Monica, on the Big Island of Hawaii.
Yeah, and they really are locally grown.
Yes, they are.
Right. Huh. That is so, see, everyone, we're all learning here today on the Produce Moms podcast. No, Eve, I'm fascinated with this. So another thing that you shared with me pre-show on your farm, that's around 1,000 trees, there are 24 varieties of mangoes that you grow.
Yes. And that's a small fraction of the worldwide amount.
Okay. So what's that amount?
So worldwide, there are around 1,600 registered varieties.
1,600 varieties. That is unbelievable.
It is. And you know what? There are new varieties being developed constantly. So if a person doesn't like one variety, there are 1,599 more in the world to give a try.
Right. And I know from, like my days at the sales desk, we had, Kents, I felt like were a huge part of the, of what I sold. We also had the Tommy Atkins.
Yeah.
And then there was the Champagne or Ataulfo mangoes. What are some of the other varieties, if you don't mind sharing a few?
Oh,
we don't obviously have time for all 1,600.
No. So you hit on some of the major ones that we're going to see in grocery stores and markets in the U.S. The Tommy Atkins, the Kent, the Kit.
And that's spelled K-I-E-T or K-E-I-T?
K-E-I-T-T.
Okay. Yep. Okay. And it's pronounced Kit. I've also learned something again, because I've always pronounced that Keat. So it's actually Kit. All right. Good to know.
I feel like it's one of those tomato sort of things. I say Kit, but I have also heard people say Keat.
Okay, good. Because that's what I always said at the sales desk, and no one corrected me. But from now on, everyone be like Eve. It's Kit. All right, keep going.
So we have Hayden, and the Hayden is really the parent variety to a lot of these other types. We have also the Francis, the Madame Francis. We also have the Palmer, which isn't as often seen, but it is another one of our major varieties. And these all are going to have completely different characteristics and flavors. So again, I say, if you get a Tommy Atkins and it just isn't your favorite, give another one a try.
That's right. There's a mango out there that will move your soul. Yes,
absolutely.
All right. No, that's great. So, another thing that I think, certainly at the producemoms.com as it relates to mangoes, our top, queries or top performing posts on our blog are the ones that are really just super basic and informative, like how to select a mango, how to cut a mango. I think there's a real learning curve as it relates to consumers with mangoes. So, since we have you on the podcast, I have to make sure we get your expertise on record here. How do consumers know how to select a mango, especially considering all these different varieties?
Yes, this is one of my favorite questions because you can really use your knowledge of selecting things like peaches, avocados. When you pick up a mango in the grocery store, if you're looking for something to eat today, you want it to have a little bit of give to it. I mean, don't squeeze it too hard, but when you hold it, it should have a little bit of softness to it. What a lot of people don't realize about mangoes is that the color of the mango doesn't necessarily indicate ripeness. A lot of varieties, especially the Haydens, the Kents, the green mangoes, sort of green and red, the red color is often an indication of how much sun the mango received. It's kind of like a suntan.
Right. Okay.
And so you can have a mango that's green and maybe yellow that can be completely ripe. That redness is just an indication of sun exposure a lot of the time.
Sure. And it's probably just because of other super popular fruits in the United States. We'll use bananas as the example. Consumers are almost trained to know that green, hard, dead green is, it needs a few days to ripen up, or even a varietal pear like a Bartlett pear. If it's dead green as a Bartlett, you want to wait a few days for it to color up and be more of that yellow. So that is so interesting. And, I did know that fact, but I guarantee you a lot of our listeners did not. So thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. And I will say I like to get a few mangoes at a time, and they're often going to ripen up at different times. And I like to leave them on the counter to let them ripen, not putting them in the refrigerator. And, just in the morning, come by, give them a squeeze and see how they're coming along.
Right. And then when you prep the mango at home, how do you normally do it? Do you slice off each of the mango cheeks? Do you peel the mango? Like what's your standard when it comes to prepping mango at your house?
So we've actually got a little bit of a division in our house because I like to do it one way and my mom likes to do it another way. And so we both basically start the same way though. We will cut off a little bit of either end. So from the stem end and the bottom, the blossom end, you could call it.
The top and tail. Yep.
Yes. And that is going to expose a little bit of the seed. So you'll be able to see basically where the seed is. Mangoes have a nice, long, flat-ish seed. And so this is where my mom and I split up. My mom likes to peel the peel off with like a standard vegetable peeler. And then she will slice off the cheeks and chop it up however she likes. I like to cut it so that I basically put my knife so that it's parallel with the seed. And you can see once you cut off that top which way the seed is oriented, I guess you could say.
Sure. Oh yeah,
and
definitely.
I let my knife slide right along the seed, applying enough pressure so it cuts through, but you'll feel your knife as it moves along the seed. And I cut off either cheek, and then often there's a little bit of flesh around the seed, and I will really, cut along that seed to get just as much as I can off of it. And from there, and this is a great opportunity because it's very visual. The mango board has some videos on YouTube that actually show you how to do this. Basically, you take the cheek with the peel side down in your hand, so the flesh up, and you sort of cross hatch it, make cuts going each way, and then you can sort of fold it up and just yes.
The hedgehog.
Yes, exactly. And get those nice chunks right off.
You know why I'm completing your thoughts here, Eve?
Why is that?
Because you and I prep a mango the exact same way. I love that method.
Of course you do, yes.
No, and you're absolutely right. Everyone, head over to mango.org. You can, from there, you can see everything on their website, and certainly their YouTube channel, extremely informative. So, and you can see these quick prep how-to videos and visual, Eve, you just described it brilliantly, but let's definitely, for anyone who wants to, save it or view it, Mango Board has you covered on their YouTube channel. So that's great. I love that you and I prep our mangoes the same way. And, and I will say I've been known to actually just kind of like gnaw on the seed too, like just to get the fruit off of it. It's so good. But I think too, mango is such a great fruit for entertaining. And I know we're celebrating National Mango Day. I want all the moms who are listening to really make sure that you remember mango when you're preparing your grocery list, and when you are thinking about, what fruits and vegetables do I want to offer to my children. Mango is not a fruit that's, typically offered on a lot of kids' menus or at schools or, households everywhere. So it's this is a great moment right now to make an attempt to offer mango to your children. And for anyone with young kids, mango, puree it up. It is like the absolute perfect first food. So, that being said, Eve, I think I'd like to talk about the domestic consumption of mangoes versus the global consumption of mangoes. Because one way I got my children really interested in mangoes was by telling them this is the world's most popular fruit. And they were mind blown because, and they did not even believe me because, they were somewhat unfamiliar with it until I, started to make that deliberate attempt to make it part of our weekly grocery list.
And that's the thing that really, to me, is still so surprising. It is number one in the world in terms of consumption, but it's a lot lower on the list in the U.S., somewhere around 20th in consumption here in the U.S. And we had been indeed at that 20th spot for a long time, but to now be at number 16 means that people they're getting the message. I have traveled pretty extensively, and in markets all over the world, you see mangoes, you see people eating mangoes, and mangoes used in so many different recipes. And I'm shocked. I think that for a society that we have that's so international, the U.S. is the world's melting pot.
Sure.
We've got to step up our mango game.
Exactly. It's like we forgot to bring the mango mania, but we're going to change that, Eve, because I'm really passionate about it too. And as you're talking about your travels, I mean, I mentioned at the top of the show, my love for mangoes runs far deeper than their great flavor. And it is that whole, that cultural experience. And in college, I was blessed to have some abroad opportunities where I lived in both Mexico and Cuba. So you can imagine how often I was eating mango. I mean, it was part of my daily life during those very unique stages of my life when I was studying Spanish in those immersion programs. And when I eat mangoes today, when I serve them to my kid, there's like a part of my soul that goes back to that stage of my life. And that's where mangoes really are this cornerstone fruit for the whole food as culture concept,
Yes, absolutely. And, we think of mangoes as being this exotic thing. And it is grown in a lot of what we consider to be colorful countries, colorful cultures.
Bucket list destinations. Yeah.
Yes. And, like we were talking about earlier, these are also destinations within the U.S. But this fruit is available in grocery stores and markets all around us, and we can bring that brightness, that culture to our own homes and use that in recipes that are a little more unique, but also that are just as normal, making cobblers, making smoothies. It can be as what's the word I'm looking for? It can be,
it can be as simple or as, it adds elegance, it adds vibrance, it adds simplicity. I mean, mango really is almost like this perfect fruit, and it is National Mango Day.
It is. And this is the day to do it.
That's right. Yes. Everyone get out there and try it. Now, Eve, one thing you mentioned during the show, and in our pre-show conversation, I really want you to share it with our listeners today. You're so passionate about food as culture that you're actually even writing a book about what you've learned in your personal journey and professional journey. So can you share a little bit more about what your book's going to be about? Yes.
So it's still in the early stages, but I realized this last year, while I was touring around some of the mango producing regions of Central and South America, that the biggest reason why I travel is because of food. And within that food, I wanted to know why this food is so important to these places. And a lot of times, this food would be tied into some of the most unique stories or aspects of culture, whether it's celebrations, whether it's the way these people have come to be, from Alaska to Peru. There were foods that told these stories, and mango is one of them. But there are many more. And so in my book, I'm going to take several really different, really unique parts of the world and tell their special stories, unique stories, through the foods that are endemic or have become iconic in the culture. And mango is one of those, to me, that really brings people together from Australia to Israel, from Peru to Cuba. Mango is at the center of a lot of culture, and we can really come together as people from all over the world, in the United States and outside the United States, through mango. And so, without giving too much of my narrative away, I see mango as a unifying force within a lot of different cultures.
I love that. I cannot wait to read it. So, I mean, truthfully, this has been the best National Mango Day I've ever had. I don't know about you, but I can't wait I'm inspired. I love your story. I love what you're doing. I'm so thankful that agriculture has young, passionate female leaders like yourself. I've learned so much about mango production here in the United States. Florida grown mangoes, it's a real thing. And Eve's family is a big part of it, everyone. And, I want to make sure that before we close out today's show, I want to remind all of our listeners to go visit mango.org. Make sure you're following the Mango Board on all their social media sites. Please check out their YouTube channel. It's super informative. I wholeheartly believe that just, not knowing how to select, store, or serve your mangoes is one of the biggest reasons why in the United States, mango ranks, like Eve said, in that around that 20th spot, where worldwide it's the number one fruit. So let's start eating more mangoes, everyone. And Eve, we have a tradition on the podcast. We always throw the mic back to our guests for the final word and the goodbye to our listeners. But I want to just ask you in your closing remarks, please make sure to tell folks where they can connect with you personally, whether that's LinkedIn or otherwise, especially with this amazing book coming up, and remind them, of course, where to go to learn more about mangoes.
Lori, it has truly been my pleasure to be on the podcast today, to be able to share with everyone my passion for mangoes. And I hope that this will be an opportunity on National Mango Day for you to develop your own passion for mangoes, whatever that may be. Don't be scared to experiment a little bit. Mango is such a versatile fruit. And if you need some inspiration, as Lori said, the National Mango Board has some great resources for everyone. Whether you are a mom trying to incorporate some new foods for your kids, if you're a cook, if you happen to be part of the mango industry yourself, check it out. We have a great YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, and we have recipes. So if you want to figure out how to incorporate mango into your life, come visit us, and we have all of the resources you need. I am on LinkedIn. If anyone would like to connect with me, I would love to do so. Reach out to me. Keep an eye out. It's still going to be a little while until that book hits the shelves. But I'm really excited to share my passion with food for all of you. And I look forward, if you do have any questions, reach out to us at the National Mango Board, and we will be so happy to share our mango enthusiasm and mango mania with you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Produce Moms Podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a featured guest, just send an email to lori@theproducemoms.com. We know there is a produce mom in you because there's a produce mom in all of us. Join our community on Facebook and all social platforms. Help us change the way America eats. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.